at a family party. My own son looked me in the eye and said, "The best gift will be the day you're gone." My chest ached, but I held my head high. Decades of sacrifice had taught me how to stand tall in the face of cruelty. Quietly. I paid off their mortgage, left a sealed packet on his desk, and walked out the door. That moment was only the beginning of what they never saw coming. I carried the casserole dish across the yard, balancing it on my hip the way I used to balance my boy when he was little. The sun pressed down hard, clinging to my cardigan, while cicadas screamed their usual summer chorus. I told myself it was just another family gathering, a Memorial Day weekend tradition. I smiled at neighbors as they drifted in through the gate. "How y'all holding up with this pollen?" Keeping my tone warm and steady, I had rehearsed my piece: share food, give my gift, leave before the evening cooled. I looked at that brick house and remembered how it was pieced together. Payments made on nights when my hands ached, transfers done at 2 a.m. while the rest of the family slept soundly. That place was as much my doing as the roses climbing the trellis. But Jareth only gave me a brisk nod. Professional, almost dismissive, like a banker greeting a client. His wife, Isolde, floated around with her practiced smile, dropping "bless your heart" like sugar. Sweet but sharp if it touched your skin. They sat me by a wobbly folding chair near the smoke from the grill, while the cushioned seats on the patio stayed reserved. My name tag read "Mom, Guest" in crooked marker, while the others bore full names in neat script. A small thing, but sharp in its way. I heard Isolde tell a neighbor, "We've been juggling so much without extra hands." Her voice pitched like a victim. I swallowed it down. My granddaughter, Leora, came running with sticky fingers and a smile. She wrapped her arms around me, leaving barbecue sauce on my cardigan. I bent down, kissed her hair, and thought, this right here is worth every bill I ever paid. When the clinking glass rang out, the crowd hushed. Isolde raised her chin, drawing attention, then handed the floor to my son. Jareth tugged at his tie, too tight for a backyard cookout, and began thanking everyone for being part of our journey. His eyes skimmed over me like I was just another neighbor. My hand brushed the envelope inside my purse. I caught a glimpse of myself reflected in the patio door, a woman who had carried loss, shouldered burden, and never once let the lights go out. Then came the words. Jareth raised his glass and said, "Honestly, the best gift would be the day when you're gone." Laughter bubbled, thin and nervous, then fell into silence. My neck burned. The cicadas even seemed to pause. I forced my voice flat. Calm. "Mind your mouth." He smirked, eyes daring me. "I'm just being real, Mom. Can't we say the quiet part out loud?" Isolde patted his arm like he was a child throwing a tantrum. "He's only kidding," she stage whispered. But no one believed it. I scanned faces, neighbors, friends, even my granddaughter frozen in confusion. My late husband's words echoed. Pick your moment. I chose not to storm out instead. I pulled the envelope from my purse, cream paper with my careful script. "This was meant to help you breathe," I said evenly. "Put it toward your future." Isolde peeked inside, lips tightening, and handed it to Jareth. He glanced at the check, snorted, and with a flourish. She crumpled it and dropped it into the trash bag tied to the grill. A cough broke the silence. My chest felt like that folding chair, ready to buckle. "Strings? You mean accountability?" I said quietly. He shrugged. "We're adults. We'll handle it." I didn't argue. I knotted the trash bag, wiped powdered sugar from Leora's cheeks, and covered the platters on the table as though the party was still ordinary. In the cool light of the kitchen, I sent myself a single text. "Aldrich, Monday." I looked at my reflection in the microwave door. Not broken, just sharper. I stepped back outside, calm and deliberate, as though nothing had happened. I left the envelope in the trash, but I didn't leave empty-handed. I carried a decision. The house was too quiet once the last guest left. I stood in the kitchen, stacking plates and wrapping the potato salad that had barely been touched. The hum of the air conditioner pressed against the southern humidity. But I still felt the sweat gather at the base of my neck. Folks had called out their polite, "Y'all take care now," and the lanterns in the backyard buzzed with moths. But my heart hadn't settled since the toast. My hands found purpose in the foil and plastic wrap, in the tying of trash bags, Movement kept me upright. Jareth walked past without touching a single dish. His clean palms the mark of someone who always left others to wipe up the mess. Isolde clattered ice into a glass and said with her practiced smile, "We'll handle the rest, Mom." The way she said Mom felt like a courtesy title on a bill. I slid my purse deeper under the bench where I always kept it during storms or emergencies. Habit born of survival. Carrying a tray toward the garage entry. I heard them. Their voices leaked through the cracked door, casual but sharp. Jareth's tone was calculating. "Look, comps on Oakview closed high. If we list quick, we'll ride the wave." My breath caught. Isolde answered like she'd rehearsed it. "Once she's less in the picture, we stage and go. It has to be clean. Jareth?" Then a realtor's bright voice came through the speaker. "All cheer and commission. We can start pre-listing photos next week. If you're ready, no clutter, no older touches." Older touches, that was me. Jareth's reply made my hand grip the door frame. "We'll finalize once we've got clear title. No hiccups." Isolde's hush was colder. "It'll be ours soon enough." That one word, ours, hit me like a stamp pressed into my skin. I stepped back before the door could open. I laid the tray on the counter so gently it didn't make a sound. Pride sometimes means not letting the enemy hear you breathe. On the island sat a folder tucked halfway under dish towels. They didn't bother hiding it. Inside, bold letters read house goals. My eyes skimmed pages. Declutter, paint neutral, remove dated frames, replace grandma pieces. A sticky note in Isolde's neat script stabbed harder than any knife. Stager wed, 3 p.m. Make sure Mom isn't around. Another page showed mortgage math that bent reality into their fantasy. They counted money I paid as if it were theirs to spend. I slid the folder back exactly as I found it. Every edge lined up, like I used to reset breakers after a storm, leaving no trace of my hand. In my phone's notes, I typed just 3 words. Quiet title, Aldrich. Then I locked the screen. Walking down the hallway, I stopped at the gallery wall. Warm sconces lit new frames. A Memorial Day photo, reprinted, had been cropped so clean you'd think I was never there. I remembered standing between Jareth and my granddaughter, but now my elbow was the only evidence left. On a console table lay the guest list, my name filed under neighbors, not under family. My finger traced the wood of the frame. No tears came. Tears would mean I agreed to pay for this rewriting. I whispered to myself, "You can't erase the foundation by painting the porch," and kept walking. Isolde's voice carried again. "Mom, you don't have to fuss." I answered plain. "I'm not fussing, I'm finishing." Jareth, fumbling with a trash bag, avoided my eyes. "We've got big plans this week." I met his words with my own. So do I. He thought it meant surrender. He didn't know it meant preparation. My granddaughter tugged my sleeve, showing me a slideshow on her tablet, pictures where I'd been cropped out again. "Daddy says we're making it look clean," she said. I kissed her forehead. "Clean is good, baby. Honest is better." She didn't yet know the difference. In the front room, I made a quiet inventory in my head. Down payments, furnace repairs, tuition, 3 liens I'd killed before they spread. My husband's laugh still lived in the walls, his words reminding me of nights we skipped dinners to keep the lights on. I weighed the check I'd seen crumpled in the trash against the folder on the counter. One showed who gave, the other who took. I chose nouns that mattered. Deed, statement, record. Feelings weren't enough. Receipts win when feelings lie. I pulled my purse from under the bench, slid my glasses and a small notebook marked house inside, and stepped out onto the porch. The night air cooled the heat in my jaw. By the time I reached the curb, I already knew which drawer held the truth and who would read it with me. I woke before the sun had climbed high enough to heat the azaleas outside my kitchen window. The quiet was steady, not heavy, and I let the coffee drip into the pot until its smell wrapped the room like an old hymn. I placed a single mug on the placemat, the way I always did, even when no one else was there to drink with me, out loud. I named what last night had been, a line crossed. Saying it gave the chaos offense, something I could stand in front of instead of drowning behind. I refused to replay the toast or the whispers in the garage. Instead, I pulled a yellow pad close, wrote 3 words, facts, dates, documents, and circled today's date in red. My calendar showed no doctor visits, no bills waiting. This day belonged to me. My purse sat under the bench where I'd tucked it. Inside was the little notebook marked House. I chose quiet shoes and a blouse that wouldn't cling with sweat. Before sipping my coffee, I bowed my head just once and prayed, Lord, lend me steady hands and a plain tongue. Steady wins storms, clever only invites thunder. With my list on the table, I picked up the phone and found Aldrich Vayner's name. When he answered, I kept my voice even. Aldrich, I need 20 minutes and a quiet room. He asked if it was urgent. I said, it's timely. The kind of Southern phrase that really means before foolishness grows legs. He offered noon, I replied. Noon suits, and asked for two things, a copier and a stapler. Paper needs order, and lawyers respect neat piles more than speeches. He didn't press me with questions, and that was why I trusted him. Men who listen, not men who soothe. I hung up, jotted my checklist, deed, mortgage statements, payment ledger, bank confirmations, and wrote his name beside the date. I ended that call the way I wanted. Thank you for your time, not for your help. I was no damsel waiting to be saved. At the kitchen table, I let one memory in, no more. My husband, years ago, bent over a breaker box, humming low while I held the flashlight steady. He had said, pick your moment, Nisi. The right fix is quiet. I whispered it back now, like gospel. I could still feel his hand guiding mine when we signed the first check for Jareth's down payment, both of us counting it as an act of love. I remembered the anniversary dinner we gave up so the gas bill could be paid, the fried eggs at midnight that felt like a feast because we laughed together. His voice, carried in my memory, was clear. Don't argue feelings with people rewriting facts, show them the ledger. That became my spine. I unlocked the hall cabinet. Second drawer, back left. Manila envelopes waited like soldiers. Out came the original deed, the mortgage statements, the ledger I'd kept with dates, amounts, and confirmation numbers. I pulled bank letters stamped paid and satisfied. Each page went in order, clipped with care, and I photographed them one by one. Technology was my second lock. On top, I placed a sticky note. Title, me. Occupancy, them. Payments, me. Those 3 lines spoke louder than any sermon. I drafted a text to Jareth. I'll be at appointments today. We'll discuss the property when I have the file in order. No begging, no softness. His reply came fast. We're busy, Mom, don't overthink. I didn't answer. Silence can be its own teacher. I sent a second text. Unsent. Bring your driver's license when we meet. Let him chew on that. A call from an unknown realtor buzzed across my phone. I let it ring. Strangers don't get to claim my Monday. On my yellow pad, I underlined one last rule. No hallway debates, only at the table with documents. I slid the file into a neat tote, tucked a pen into my blouse pocket, and smoothed the fabric once. Turning off the kitchen light, I heard the click of the door behind me. It sounded not like leaving, but like a promise. I whispered, let's be done being quiet, and headed toward noon. By then, Aldrich would have the pages, and I would have his sentence. What comes next, and how final it could be. I arrived at Aldrich Vayner's office with my tote held tight against my side. The receptionist buzzed me in, and the hum of the copier sounded like a hymn to order. Everything I asked for was laid out. A stapler, a yellow pad, clean paper. Aldrich flipped through the deed, the mortgage statements, and my handwritten ledger, his finger tapping each line like a judge with a gavel. Title is in your name. Payments are yours. He said plain. He outlined options with steady strokes. Notice to quit, certified mail, service log, even a quiet title if it came to that. I told him straight. No shouting, no back and forth. Documents only. He nodded, his eyes steady. That's how you win without noise. We built a plan. Assemble the packet. Pay off any lingering balance. Prepare a cover letter that told facts without frill. I initialed each page as if I were signing my own oath. He handed me duplicates inside a blank manila envelope, the flap sharp and sealed like a clean slate. At the copier, I worked through the order, deed first, payoff confirmation second, ledger third, and bank letters stamped in red. Aldrich suggested a one-page summary. He wrote, owner Eunice Harrow, occupants Jareth Colburn and family, status paid in full. I added my line. Assistance is not ownership. Gratitude is not a contract. His mouth curved just slightly. That will read, we printed 2 cover letters, one addressed to the household, one to keep sealed. When I slid the papers into a heavyweight envelope, the glue stuck smooth, no gaps. Aldrich leaned back, his voice low. You don't need a speech tonight. The paper will talk. I texted Jareth. I'll stop by early evening to drop documents. Please have a table clear. He shot back. We're busy, I replied. It will be brief. Driving over. I didn't rehearse anger or stories. I rehearsed boundaries, names, dates, amounts. I parked 2 houses down, choosing to walk steady and enter without haste inside. The dining table was half cleared. Isolde was fussing with candles, like light could cover shadow. I placed the envelope dead center, aligned with the table runner, then I sat at the head chair without asking. My first quiet correction. Jareth leaned back, his mouth tight. Make it quick, Mom. I looked him dead in the eye. It will be. I opened the envelope, laid out the deed with my name, the payoff stamped in bold, and the ledger that told 15 years of steady sacrifice. I didn't waste breath. Title, balance, satisfied. One more line followed. You've been living in my house on my mercy. Isolde reached for the ledger, but I pivoted it so both could see. Jareth tried to laugh, sharp and nervous. So what? You want credit? I said. No, I want accuracy. I slid the 1-page summary across the wood grain. From this evening forward, any discussion about this property is with papers, not feelings. Isolde's fingers trembled over the payoff stamp. Are you moving back? She asked, her voice thinner than tissue. I answered, calm as stone. I am moving on. How you remain here will be lawful, respectful, and written. Jareth's jaw clenched. You can't hold this over us? I tapped the deed. I don't have to hold anything, it already is. The silence was sharp. Outside, a neighbor's lawnmower sputtered alive, but inside, the only sound was truth on paper. I left them a packet, folded the empty envelope flat, and set it aside. My terms were laid out as clear as the ink. No access without appointment. No staging, no contractors without my written consent. To Jareth, I said. Next conversation happens with ID present, at a table, with a witness. To Isolde, you will not sign anything in my name. Leora peeked in from the doorway, her wide eyes still innocent. I softened just enough for her, then gathered my tote. I left a copy on the table marked, for your records, as I pushed in my chair. The room already felt emptier, my absence heavier than any speech I could have given. I walked out without a flourish. But the room still rang with my name stamped on every page. That night, after leaving their house, I packed like a woman who decided enough was enough. A small suitcase lay open on my bed, 2 dresses, my flats, a cardigan, the ledger copies, and my Bible tucked against the side sleeve, no more, no less. I placed my house keys inside a plain white envelope, the kind you'd use for paying bills, and wrote on the front in block letters, for the record. Next. I pulled a card from the drawer and wrote a single sentence for Leora. Grandma loves you. Tell me the truth when you see it. I sealed it carefully and slipped it into my tote. For Jareth and Isolde, I prepared a second envelope, not filled with complaints, but with nouns and dates that could not be twisted. I checked my phone. Several missed calls, none worth answering. With one swipe, I silenced the notifications. Peace was something I could now choose. At the kitchen table, I typed the letter that would end the guessing. 1 page, clean, title owner. Eunice Harrow, occupants Jareth Colburn and family, mortgage paid in full. Then the line that mattered most, assistance is not ownership. I added a paragraph that stated in no uncertain terms, effective immediately, I will not fund your lifestyle. Any sale, staging, or contracting without my written consent will trigger notice to vacate. To it. I attached copies of the deed, the payoff, the 15-year ledger, and the stamped bank letters. I slipped in Aldrich's business card, adding below it, all future communication regarding this property, in writing. I signed each page at the bottom corner. My initials were not decoration, they were a fence, before dawn, when dew still clung to the grass. I parked 2 houses away and walked with my tote swinging at my side. The dogwoods were alive with birds bickering. And I almost smiled, with my own key. I let myself into the silent house. No creeping, no hesitation. In the office. I placed the envelope in the center of Jareth's desk. On top of the letter, I set the keys. 3 words handwritten beside them. My last gift, freedom beneath. I spread the packet. Deed, ledger, payoff letters, all of it laid bare. A sticky note on top read, all future access by appointment. For my own record, I snapped a photo of the desk with my phone. Timestamps are tidier than arguments. On my way out, I locked the door and dropped the spare mailbox key with a note into the slot. Certified copy is in the mail by 7:12 a.m. My phone buzzed. Jareth's text. What is this? I let it sit. Then another. We need to talk now. My reply was only 4 words. Put it in writing. A minute later, Isolde's message popped up. This is dramatic. She got the same reply. A realtor number flashed on the screen. I declined, then texted back. All property matters through my counsel. Aldrich Vayner. I forwarded the packet to Aldrich himself with a single line, delivered at 6:41 a.m. His answer was immediate. Logged. I brewed coffee, leaned against my counter, and ate a peach over the sink. Its sweetness cut the metallic taste of resolve. The letter left no room for fantasy. No more financial transfers. Joint accounts closed. Authorized users removed. Any attempt to list or show the property would trigger a formal notice to quit. Harassment would equal a police report number. The ledger total stood stark. 15 years of payments. Every dime from me. No lecture needed. Counting speaks louder than scolding. On the hall console, I'd left a separate envelope for Leora. You always get to ask questions. Grandma will answer. At the bottom of their letter, I added Aldrich's name. People behave differently when they know another set of eyes is watching. By mid-morning, the desk in that house held my keys and the truth. By afternoon, those papers would start costing them. The morning after I left the keys and papers on Jareth's desk, I tried to keep myself steady. I set my phone face down, then turned it back over, letting curiosity slip through in small breaths. A kettle whistled on the stove, and I poured hot tea into my mug before sitting at my desk. I logged everything. The timestamp from dawn delivery, the address, the way I placed the keys on the letter. Delivered 6:41 a.m. I wrote in neat block letters. My rule for the day was clear. No hallway debates, no raised voices, no surprise visits, only paper, only logs, only nouns. When my phone pinged, I muted it, then unmuted just long enough to see the neighbor group chat buzzing with whispers. I closed it down again and repeated my husband's old reminder out loud. Show them the ledger. It kept me from drifting into anger. By mid-afternoon, Miley sent me a message. Cute pic. It was a post from Jareth and Isolde. Same clothes as the night before, but I wasn't in it. The crop was so clean, it looked surgical. The caption read, just us, with a row of red hearts. The comments piled up. Perfect family. So proud of you both. I zoomed in and saw what they had cut away. My shoulder. My place at that table. An empty inch where I had been. That inch spoke louder than their smiles. I didn't reply to Milas. Instead, I noted it in my yellow pad. S11. Public narrative =sign no mom. Evidence, not a wound. In the photo, little Leora smiled, but it was faint, almost uncertain. Children sense when something is off, even when no one names it. I took a slow breath. I wouldn't beg for inclusion. Accuracy lasts longer than applause. Later. I drove past their street on my way to the post office. I didn't stop or park, just kept moving. Through the blinds, I caught a glimpse of the hallway wall. The photo was already framed, my elbow gone. The lie made permanent in glass. I whispered to myself, you can't paint over foundations, and kept rolling forward. At the post office, the machine printed my certified mail receipt with a tracking number. I stapled it to my packet as soon as I returned home. Logging. Observed new frame through public view. No contact at residence. Not long after. My phone rang. The number belonged to my credit union. I answered in my church voice. This is Eunice Harrow, the representative said. We're calling to verify an online request to add an authorized signer and initiate a same-day transfer. My grip tightened around the pen in my hand. Tell me the time of request, the flagged IP, the amount, and the destination, I said. He listed the details, and I wrote every digit. Deny authorization, I instructed. Freeze external transfers. Remove all authorized users except me. Send me the case number and a written summary. He read the case number, confirmed my email, and stayed on the line while I reset every password. Before we hung up, I added, please note, attempts tied to Colburn household. Counsel on file. Aldrich Vayner. The rep replied, logged, ma'am. I forwarded the case number and summary to Aldrich. He called within minutes. Eunice, you have grounds now. We move forward with a formal notice to quit. Together, we outlined the steps. A certified notice with a 14-day deadline. Service log, no direct talks. I drafted one sentence that mattered. Any further attempt to access accounts or modify ownership will be referred to law enforcement. Aldrich approved. Concise. Enforceable. Let the paper do the talking. That evening, I typed a neutral text to Jareth. A certified notice is on its way. Future communication in writing via counsel. He didn't waste time replying, this is petty, I answered. Put it in writing. With that, I set my reminders. Delivery window proof of service scan. Calendar marked for day 14. Then I carried my tea to the porch, letting the night air cool the tightness in my jaw. Anger weakens the hand, paper strengthens it. I whispered to the twilight. Pick your moment. By nightfall, the photo lied, the bank had warned me, and the notice sat ready. Tomorrow, it would bear their names. At 10:03 a.m., I watched the server appear on my doorbell cam. He stood tall, manila packet in his hand, his tone clipped but polite. Mr. Colburn, you've been served. The timestamp burned onto the video like a seal. Behind him, I heard Isolde's voice cut sharp through the air. That's ridiculous. The camera caught Jareth snatching the papers, his jaw set, his shoulders stiff. I tapped record, saving it twice, then entered the log. Date, time, doc ID, witness, and clip location. No commentary, just facts. At 10:05 a.m. My phone buzzed with Jareth's first text. We need to talk now. I answered with my template, per notice, in writing via counsel. An unknown number called minutes later. I let it ring and logged it as probable realtor push. My chest tightened, but I whispered my own rule aloud. Count, don't argue. By noon, another sting landed. A church sister forwarded me a screenshot. I'd been briefly added to a group thread titled Just Us, then deleted again. The screenshot showed Isolde's words. We weren't including her. This is family business. The letters hit harder than silence ever could. I opened my yellow pad, wrote in neat strokes, S13, exclusion, self-declared. Then I emailed Aldrich with the subject line, public narrative of exclusion, useful if needed. I made tea and stood at the sink, hands steady, hurt acknowledged, not indulged, that afternoon. I walked my usual loop past the green. Jareth came toward me, eyes low, feet dragging like a boy called into the principal's office. Why are you doing this? He asked. I answered with nouns, not please. Title, notice, access by appointment. He softened his tone, tried on a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Let's handle this as family. I glanced at his spotless shoes and said, family starts with telling the truth. A neighbor slowed her car to watch, so I ended it quickly. Talk to counsel, I said, and moved on. At home, I logged the encounter, 2:37 p.m. Sidewalk deflection, no commitment to paper. At 3:11 p.m., I met little Leora at the mailbox cluster. She ran up, arms wide, her words tumbling out before her breath caught. Grandma, Daddy says when you're gone, we can make it all ours. My knees bent to her height so our eyes could meet. Baby, I said softly. Grown-ups say clumsy things when they feel scared, she added, quieter now. He said it'll be easier when your name isn't on stuff. That truth, from a child's lips, cut sharper than any adult's insult. I hugged her and wrote it later in my notes, not as a weapon, but as proof of a pattern. I sent Aldrich a message. Child statement corroborates intent, logged. His reply was brisk. Good to have. Keep private unless necessary. Toward evening, Milas waved me down by the HOA lawn. Eunice, she said brightly, they're doing so well. Young families need room to breathe, you know? Then came the phrase dressed as kindness. Sometimes older folks should step back so the kids can fly. Her words landed heavy, like dirt on a coffin. I smiled thinly. I've stepped back for 15 years. What you're praising is debt repackaged as virtue. She blinked, then tried. Well, they make it look easy, I answered. Looking is cheaper than paying, and kept walking, logged later as S15. Neighbor's erasure disguised as compliment. Back at my desk, I filed 3 entries, S13, S14, S15. I updated my conditions sheet. Any staging, listing, or contracting equals breach. I scheduled certified notices to the bank and insurance. I drafted tomorrow's email, set for noon, attaching the packet with Aldrich's cover letter. Then I placed a flash drive labeled Daylight Proof on my desk. My shoulders loosened at last. Almost time for quiet thunder, I whispered. By sunset, their story had hearts and hashtags. Mine had documents and a flash drive. Only one of those survives a courtroom. I arrived early at the HOA community room, flipping on the fluorescent lights, opening the blinds, and setting out water pitchers. If the room looked ordinary, then the truth would stand out plainly. Aldrich was already seated to my left, calm as ever, spreading the copies like placemats. Deed, payoff letter, ledger, notice to quit. When Jareth and Isolde walked in late, their smiles were tight, rehearsed. They had brought optics, while I had brought receipts. I placed the small black USB by the projector, its label written in my steady hand. For the record. My voice was even as I said, we'll walk through facts, not feelings. Aldrich outlined the scope, property rights, payments, these boundaries already served. No character speeches, no family therapy, just the record. The first slide filled the screen. Title owner, Eunice Harrow. Occupants, Jareth Colburn household. Mortgage status, satisfied, stamped and dated. Slide 2 displayed 15 years of payments. Line after line, each confirmation number a stone in the foundation I laid. I didn't elaborate. Numbers don't need applause. Slide 3 carried the screenshots, the cropped family photo and the thread labeled, Just Us, with Isolde's typed dismissal. We weren't including her. I let the silence that followed hold the weight. Slide 4 rolled the doorbell cam. The serve at 10:03 a.m. The shouting at 10:05, chain of custody intact. Slide 5 displayed the bank's summary. Case number and attempted unauthorized transfer. Aldrich read the bank's note aloud. I said quietly, this is how I kept the lights on. This is how I drew the line. And this is why the line holds. Isolde broke first. This is humiliating. I didn't raise my voice. It's documenting. Jareth leaned in, anger tight in his throat. You're making us look like villains. I gestured at the ledger. Paper doesn't perform, it records. A neighbor whispered. I didn't know. Aldrich answered flatly. You weren't supposed to. Jareth tried again, softer this time. Family should handle family. I looked him square. Family begins with the truth and keeps it. Aldrich then laid out the next steps. Compliance timeline. Access by appointment only. Penalties for breach. Simple, cold, irrefutable. Packets were signed, logged, and handed to the HOA manager. I initialed each page. A realtor dialed in on speaker, only to hear Aldrich state clearly, any listing without written owner consent is interference. Silence. Then a quick disconnection. Insurance and bank representatives were copied in real time. Escrow was flagged. I slid a sealed note across to Aldrich, addressed to Leora. For the child, I said, not the fight. When the last packet was stacked, the matter was no longer opinion. It was record, in the hallway. Jareth finally spoke, voice low. You really did all that? My reply was steady. Yes, I really did. And I won't do your pretending anymore. He muttered. We can fix this. I corrected him. You can correct it. That's different. I offered a handshake, not a hug. He didn't take it. That silence went in my log, too. By late afternoon, I rolled my carry-on through RDU Airport. I texted Aldrich one final note. In the air, proceed per plan. On the flight to Honolulu, I kept the payoff letter folded in my hand like a boarding pass to my own life. Above the Pacific, I whispered to my late husband, pick your moment. I had. Waikiki greeted me with warm air and soft surf. At sunrise, I sipped hotel coffee and wrote in my yellow pad, live for the living. A final text blinked on my phone overnight. We're ready to talk. I set it aside. The waves smoothed the sand, steady and sure, answering before I did.